Well, welcome back, everybody. I've channeled my inner Iconic here, and I've got the sunglasses on. Great bit of insight there from Iconic, and of course, a lot of it really focusing around sort of Astralis and some of the sort of ideologies and base fundamentals fresh that they've brought in, because a lot of that has been brought into this M80 side.
Yeah, and I think, it was worth highlighting in terms of what he said in the interview as well, particularly around the clash of, Iconic and his playstyle, Spoit and his playstyle, and then bringing in the M80 existing core, clashing those three ideologies together and trying to form something in such a short period of time. But time will be the great healer to that, basically. We would expect them to get better and better and better.
I'm afraid I can't do this forever. I actually can't see as much as I can with my normal glasses on. But it was funny while it lasted. I think we've got the map veto ready to go so we can see just exactly where we are going to be headed here. Of course, M80, fresh off the Copenhagen Major. They are going to have maybe not given away as much as some teams have there, because, of course, they didn't play that many maps in the grand scheme of things. But very much the known versus the unknown here. Very similar to the Liquid game in that, we've got a team that has a very dominant map pool, and then we've got West Garfield Park that is maybe a little bit lesser known, although they do compete in a couple of LCQs. Talk us through this, Fresh. I'm seeing a Chalet and a Bank straight off the rip.
So the curious thing about Chalet and Bank is we've got a very similar scenario to the previous game that we had, where West Garfield Park have picked Chalet. Now, that's a map that they did win out in the LCQs for the Copenhagen Major. It's a map they won against Parabellum in the qualifiers to this event. So it's a map that they like, but it's also a map that M80 love. I have it as like their number 3 preference map. M80 have also then picked Bank. Again, very high preference for them. Number 2 in terms of the preferences there. So the first 2 maps have gone really well in terms of the picks for M80. And I feel like that's what you're going to get with West Garfield Park kind of being a pickup stack essentially for some of these qualifiers, where it was players that took the reality TV spot from reality TV to go into the LCQs and have continued, right? And then going through to the decider, this is where things got really interesting for me, was that M80 chose to ban away the Villa to go to Clubhouse as the decider. Now, M80, over the course of Stage 1 and most of the Copenhagen Major, loved Villa, but they had 2 or 3 really bad games on it towards the end of Copenhagen Major, so they chose to get rid of that and go to Clubhouse. That was a very middle-of-the-road preference for them. So that's potentially a nod to where they're at with their map pool, is that they're expecting to get it done in 2, but if it does go to 3, traditionally they prefer Villa to Clubhouse, but it's been a little bit wobbly at the Major.
Yeah, you can think back to some of the Clubhouse games that they played at Copenhagen as well, particularly the one against M&M. That one really does spring into mind. So certainly a curious map pick. For anyone unfamiliar with West Garfield Park, it seems we need to do justice and run through the players over there. We've got Rice, Eddie, Snake, Valor, and Biologic. A couple of names in there that you might recognize straight off the rip. Of course, we've got Snake there previously on SSG, having played in that roster last time at Gamers 8, competed as well in and around the NAL. So, a player that's been knocking around, played in Yongapur Major in 2022. So, everybody knows this player at this point. And then, of course, the other side of the coin, you've got Biologic, a player that has been on Oxygen for what feels like the longest time. I know he had a good stint over there on Oxygen and teams before that. So these are by no means, no-name players out there. That they've all got their own little credit to the name, haven't they, Fresh?
Yeah, I think so. I think the fact that they beat Sonics pretty comfortably in the qualifiers for this, they beat Six Karma, they beat Parabellum, as mentioned, just to get to this event. They did okay in the LCQs for the Major. I think you've got to show them some respect, even if they haven't been operating at that Tier 1 level. They've got Tier 1 players. Like you say, Snake was on TSM. Bio's played in NAL or any version of North American Pro League for a long time. And Valor, Rice, and Eddie, as much as they might be lesser known, they're still decent Tier 2 players coming out of North America as well. So this isn't like a very weak team by any means. Although we would, you would still caveat that with, we are expecting M80 as the favourites to come into this and probably win this. But on their day, West Garfield Park have shown that they can upset anybody.
Absolutely. I mean, you mentioned there that the victory that they got against the Sonics. That in itself is
7-1 as well.
Really is quite impressive. So certainly a team that you want to try and keep your eye on, and we're not sort of billing this one as anything other than M80 coming in as the favourites, but they were kind of the favourites at Copenhagen as well, and look what happened there. So by no means are they unbeatable, but we do find ourselves in a bit of a similar situation to the situation we got at the start of the day, where of course we had Liquid versus against Tropical. So really unsure in terms of what we're going to look at. Obviously M80 have got the sort of target on their back, if you will, in terms of the map preferences, and we are going to maps that we know that team to be very preferable for. But then there is the argument of, well, if these two, if this team is all they need to do is come in here and focus on winning one best of three fresh. It sounds easy on paper, but when you go into these maps where you know that the opponent is such a Goliath, there are going to be holes and stuff that you can try and exploit, but there's only so much you can do. One of the great strengths and one of the things that makes, for me, M80 quite an interesting team to watch, and Astralis before that, was some of the adaptation that they can do, some of the creative plays. Such a creative team. So even when you start thinking, oh, well, we know how they play Chalet, so we're going to try and counter it, it's only going to go so far, isn't it? Yeah,
absolutely. And I think that comes down to, the iconic mentality, realistically, bringing that in from Astralis, and especially Spoit, because Spoit's a player that can be molded by his surroundings, right? If Iconic's making these big plays, Spoit's going to be right there alongside him, trying to make those plays, those creative plays. And that's very much the way that Astralis played Siege, is that they saw an opportunity and they hit it. Didn't matter if you was a breacher, didn't matter what your role was in the team, you see an opportunity, you hit it. If Spoit does that alongside, we know how good Spoit is. Obviously, we're Europeans, we're going to stand Spoit anyway. And then the Brazilian core that they've got on the backline, not even on the backline, but the Brazilian core that they've got in terms of the rest of the team, it was a solid enough core inside of NAL. So in theory, this team should just go from level to level to level once they get on that same synergy, and that's been their big problem. But I'm very excited by this roster. I think the ceiling of this roster in terms of M80, sure, Copenhagen did not go well, and they did speak about that, but it can go, like, the stars is where this team can go in terms of their ceiling. So you would expect them to do well here. Potentially we'd even see them at Gamers 8, later on in the year.
We got a chance to actually stand in with where the players were playing in Copenhagen as well, and listen to some of the calls that were coming out directly from Iconic, and it really does get your heart pumping even if you're not in the server. But speaking of the server, it looks as though we are ready to hop on into Chalet fresh. Going to be getting this one kicked off.
Very excited to see Chalet. Like I say, it is technically West Garfield Park's pick, but M80 absolutely love this map. The one thing with West Garfield Park picking it is M80 are going to get the start inside choice. They're going to go over onto the attack of Chalet, obviously seen as the preferable side by most teams. You can cut off the rotates pretty easy. The map's quite small, it's quite easy to understand how the flanks, and it's very small in terms of clearing it as well. So M80 will be starting off. They get rid of the Nook and the Azami, two very meta operators at the minute. And again, West Garfield Park, they've got rid of Dokkaebi and Valkyrie. Again, very meta operators. I think this is about as standard as a ban phase you'll see these days, to be honest.
Yeah, we've almost gone from Liquid doing, the target ban, the, very unpredictable niche operator bans, and now look at it, Dokkaebi, Nook gone. Arguably two of the best attackers at the minute, and an Azami and a Valk gone. Yeah, sure, you've got the Solace, but the Azami is really what you keep your eye out for. There are so many opportunities on this map to really take full advantage of that. And to deal with that for at least the first 6 rounds. Say they're going to be kicking things off on the attack. Let's go down to bar for our first site here. Site that really has increased in popularity.
Chalet's,
although it's not unusual to see all sites here on Chalet.
I was just about to say, Chalet is a really curious one with site selection because it's very team and meta and opponent specific. It's probably the most balanced map in terms of teams playing all 4 sites, and the priority and the order of those sites being completely different depending on which team you're playing. For example, at the Major, Bar Gaming was one of the best defender-sided sites, but was also played probably, it was the second least out of all of the sites at Chalet. So it's a very curious one because it comes, each site, depending on the meta and how teams are playing, comes in and out of fashion, and that's one of the reasons that, like, I absolutely love this map in comp.
We have seen the Ying 6 picked out of here. We're going to have Capital brought instead, so any sort of fireworks that we're expecting to see in this first round. Maybe going to come in a slightly different way, but Capital super popular to be brought, especially when you start thinking about clearing out library.
Yeah.
So many power positions inside of library, although nobody really playing. We do have the player on fireplace, so that is going to be something to keep your eye on, but not a great deal stopping the hop in here. We do need to deal with that player on the fireplace. The Wamai is going to be in that power position, but they're not really being supported here.
Yeah, exactly. It's a very passive hold as we see Gomez get that first kill, gets 2 kills onto the side of West Garfield Park. It's very curious. You normally see a big fight over towards the library side, and Gomez has managed to just get on that blue window, find a couple, and then dip out of there. And Snake's wondering what the hell has gone on there. 3v5, got to try and find another pick back. And if you look at the map control M80 have, they've got control of library now. If they can clear this mute out of the game's room, they can just plant by this big window, and this round could be over before it's even started.
The kills are going to keep flying in here for M80 as Kino joins the party now. Mute's really thinking about trying to make a play, but there are just too many angles to watch. Snake is out there on the Oryx, and he's not even going to get a chance to get back close to sight. M80, they're going to clean shop here. A flawless round to kick things off. They didn't even break a sweat fresh.
I don't think they entered the building. I genuinely don't think they've entered the building. I think every engagement came from the outside there. Certainly all 3 of Gomez's did, and the one onto the mute. So it was just whether Kino actually entered the building. I think, you know, for M80, obviously they play this kind of split approach where you try and put a couple of people in each of these areas, key areas, and then try and find a gap. And clearly Gomez has opened the window and found a double kill and found a massive gap that when that happens, obviously you're going to be in a 3v5 as a defender. You're thinking, oh, crikey, they've got control of the library, they get control of mezzanine really quickly. We've got to try and make plays, we've got to find something back. And then that's when you can get significantly punished. But I think for M80, given how bad Copenhagen went, you know, we said this with Liquid, you're looking for a reaction. I think the flawless round for the very first round is a pretty good reaction to me.
Well, these guys have got a point without not looking to drop anything here, and I'm sure they're going to be treating this as seriously as possible.
Attackers are moving to
seeing the Yin 6 picked out of again, this time into an ace.
Yep.
Getting a bit excited for that Ying pick, but I don't think the M80 want to play it in that fashion. I don't think they need to. Especially given what we saw in round number 1, they're happy to just pick off based on information from their own. It's almost funny that the Capital was brought thinking there was going to be some sort of a fight for library, and it just turns out the top floor was all but gifted away.
It was just not.
You know, the Wamai getting flashed out there, it's not something that really should be happening. Snake gets an opportunity there onto Spoit. Spoit looking to get away with his life there. He's thinking about a little challenge onto this, and the gunfight will ensue. You wait for the players of M80 to start circling around. They know they've got this player pinned inside of library. Nade's going to get tossed in as well. We've got Gomez on the opposite window. A kill and a trade instantly. M80 very quick to react there, and Snake, I mean, that's all he was ever going to get away with there was 1 kill max.
I actually think the West Garfield Park or WGP have come out on top there in terms of the trade of the utility, because they've got rid of Spoit, one of the best gunners in the world, and they've got rid of 2 nades. Obviously, what Spoit had used one, got rid of 1 nade and managed to get a trade. I think that could have gone so much worse for Snake and WGP. So now M80 just need to work on clearing the top floor. You see the Sophia has opened up the double window and stunned in. And it's about whether these players can take control of the top floor and work their way through. Because the defender positioning is actually most of them are on the top floor. There's only Mute inside of sight. And Breach will now come in for the office. And it's whether they want to push through and clear top floor, or whether they just want to hold the defenders out of the office and then try and breach the lobby into dining and then go for the plant from there.
You speak of breaches, there are plenty of them knocking around. 9 in total. So you might be looking at this lineup and thinking, oh, there's no sledge, there's no book. We've got 9 breaching charges to get through. Big problem. There's only a minute on the clock, so there's not a lot of time to be getting in there and placing and activating those charges. A sledge or a book would get that job done a little bit quicker, especially with some of the positioning here from the mates.
Attackers recovered the bomb diffuser.
Hiding out in the tree, he's out in the grass in the hole here, looking to try and find someone on a rotation. Kino. He's going to get himself into the action as well. Gomez, he's peeking on into sight. It looks as though top floor control has been entirely foregone. Plant's going to start going down under that safe cover. The C4 out, baited beautifully. Iconic, he's picked himself up one, and Kino finishes it off. You don't need to get the plant down if you're going to pick up all the kills.
Really nice approach there from M80, and it's textbook Siege. And, you know, this team can get crazy and then get amongst it, but they can also play textbook Siege. All they need to do is breach office, and take control of it. And by take control of it, what I mean by that is just keep the defenders out of it. Allow the defenders to play in master and bathroom and the closet and the top solar stairs. And then you breach the dining wall and you walk in and plant. And the only thing that can really stop you is a C4 from the mute on site. Or the defenders retake the top floor. As both of those occurs, the defenders try to retake control of office to play vertically above the plant, shut down. And then the mute played the C4, come off the plant, kill the mute, and it was as simple as that. We talk about checklist Siege quite a lot when we talk about, for example, Clubhouse or Bank or the processes that you go through on many of these other more technical maps. We don't talk about it on Chalet, but that was a really good example there of M80 playing that checklist Siege and not needing to do anything more to beat the opposition that's in front of them.
10 seconds remaining. 5 seconds to insertion.
It takes a very well-measured team to pull that off as well.
Yeah.
It isn't the easiest thing to do, to just entirely ignore the top floor when that is the done thing, right? You know, you expect to take that top floor control, but knowing that they were a little bit short on numbers, they knew that they didn't really have the benefit of time or the ability to do that because there was no one downstairs for the catch. So instead it does just become well, we just need to push site then, that's where we know them to be. Going to be going back to the bar for round number 3. I'm a little bit concerned about this drone that's coming out here. The fight was all in and around the library side last time, which was very much surrendered, very much for free. Frost has been brought in an attempt to at least distract anyone from an immediate hop-in.
Is Eddie going to get a time in here? Oh, the other pin comes out. He does make his way up so says it doesn't. Oh, the player now knows. He definitely knows about him now. That's going to be Spoit. Knows that he's low HP. He's maybe waiting for his team here to come and help him out with regards to Eddie, although Eddie will back off. I noticed that there was a line outside of lobby door, so Eddie's cut off rotation point is completely cut off. He is completely alone here, but he will take the wise option, will drop down that hatch in dining, and potentially look to come up the blue stairs. Spoit just making sure that he's basically not going to get flanked here with the drone, just making absolute certainty, and it now looks like their top floor pursuit will carry on as soon as this flank drone's set up.
It's something that you can't do against M80. You can't afford to roam against this team without a lot of support. They are just going to dial in onto it, and we've seen already how good they are at those pinches. There's been multiple occasions where players have been pinched quite significantly. It feels like we're gearing up for another one here. We do have Eddie downstairs on the Legion. He's managed to evade for the time being. Spoit is going to be on hatch though. There's definitely going to be some sound transfer between those two. Spoit does need to be cautious here. M80 don't have anybody dead at the moment, so there is nobody going to be actively watching that camera. Spoit eventually will be taken down and just get one in the meantime, but that's just a green light for Eddie to hit this rotation, Fresh.
Yeah, absolutely, and I think he's got really good timing in terms of the cams as well, because he went past the flank cam as Spoit died, so Spoit would then jump on them. So Eddie's got a potential really good timing unless there's another flank cam in and around Piano. Obviously, M80 are playing this from behind. They've got control of the library, but the problem is that they've still got to clear people out from these key power positions. You see Rice hit by the mudroom. You see one playing in bar, one playing in stop. Those are very hard positions to clear with very limited verticality and only 20 seconds on the clock.
That's the big problem here, is the time left on the clock. Eddie could come in and play huge spoiler here. The kills are going to start to come in here. WGP, one found on Taquino. A little bit of a one-for-one trade, but it isn't even going to come down to the flank from Eddie. The pressure was sufficient on the side. M80 not as successful in that opening engagement, and well, I'll hold my hands up. I was concerned for Eddie, but I think he's played that fantastically.
Yeah.
A very slippy play there to get himself away and navigate that situation with Spoit in the early round.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, he managed to get himself out, and that's what I was concerned about, is if he tried to get out from, you know, passing by the main door, he was going to get cut off. If he tried to fight Spoit, he was probably going to get traded out. He managed to persevere and save his life, then get the flank, and I think from M80, their issues there, realistically, was Spoit was the one making, you know, progress through dining side, and then realistically, they'd not done too much else in the rest of the round apart from remove the top blue shield, and that was basically it for the rest of the team. And obviously they succumbed late round in terms of the time. Now, moving through for West Garfield Park, they will go down to the basement. They are running a mirror setup and a closet, sorry, not a closet, a boiler rotate, as you can see there. A double mirror setup, one facing one on the breach wall and one facing the breach wall. Is not a setup that you see every day, particularly that Long Island wall.
Attackers must locate and defuse a bomb.
I've seen some pretty fruity mirrors so far in Gamers Without Borders. So this game is no different whatsoever.
That Clubhouse one still gets to me.
Oh, the Clubhouse. I love that Clubhouse one.
Absolute classic.
That's what you get when you fly on the wall in a really low elo game. What a great shot there from Diaz.
Yeah.
Not an easy one to win, especially given that he's not actually rocking the DMR.
Nice refrag there in terms of getting Iconic off the board, keeping that numbers advantage. Also, crucially, that is the hard breach you've got as well. And we did say about how Iconic's mentality is, if you see an opportunity, it doesn't matter the role you're on. He's on a hard breacher, he's died there. Doesn't matter too much because there's a Thermite and Diffuse with hard breach charge still on the side of M80, but it makes it much less comfortable in terms of playing out the round.
Yeah, the hard breach is always coveted here when you're attacking into the basement. The idea is to at least get both sides open and have a little bit of a contingency plan for when things like bandit tricks come into play, or you do lose that hard breacher early. So Kino does need to be careful as to where he deploys these exothermics. And again, a very slow approach really coming out from M80. We see Gomez this time on the fuse. He's replacing those charges down and getting goes through the snowmobile reinforcement, and he's actually going to use his secondary hard breach, but that
He shot it out.
removed.
Yeah.
I think he shot it out in danger, coming in and making what we like to call a big something hole.
Yeah, absolutely. The problem now is that mirror window. Because your range hard breach has died on the ace, how do you deal with a mirror window? Snake seems to be aware, however, of Spoit's potential presence inside of Mud, and it looks like Spoit is playing completely for sound here. We've got an engagement about to happen where I'm not sure if Spoit's ready for it. Snake seems absolutely certain. He's just got to wait and wait, and Spoit peeks it. Snake does pick up the kill. That's a big kill. So now M80, 3v4. They don't have a lot of map control. They know one's on blue stairs. Very little ranged hard breach. They can't deal with the mirror windows. They're going to have to really pull something out if they're going to win this round.
Gomez is likely going to try and get this hatch open. He should give him a bit of a line of sight and can start to try and work, but with Trench being reinforced as well, sorry, being reinforced but having that shield on it and one of the panels left soft, back into the side, playing it very similar to the elbow you would on Oregon. So M80, we've not really got very many options here at the 20-second mark, and they're going to have to go for a very big push and, more importantly, win these gunfights because they do sit at a deficit. Snake is just going to be racking out in the corner. He's likely going to pick up another freebie here, and he will do just exactly that. But the job isn't done yet. Kino's made his way in from behind the bins. Gomez, you've got to try and hold this plant from going down. Kino, you're the last alive. You might find one, but it's not going to be good enough.
Yeah.
Garfield, they're going to pick up yet another round.
Once again, you know, I will say it, is losing that hard breacher on ace in library. He's just not optimum, especially when you're against the mirror. Iconic, I love him. I love the plays that he makes, but you've got to respect that you need the utility at times. Siege is an FPS, sure, but you need the strategic element. You need the utility. If they had an ace available, they can breach that mirror window on long wall. They can breach the mirror window on the garage wall, and this round is so much less of a problem than what it was. Obviously, losing Spoit didn't help. Obviously, playing late for time didn't help. But the fact is, they couldn't get all the way down the Westminsters because of a mirror window that they then found out about late in the round. And for M80, they've put in a couple of very clinical rounds, but they've now put in a couple of very sloppy rounds as well. So, you know, West Garfield Park have played it very well in terms of their resilience to come back after a couple, but, you know, I was expecting a little bit better out of M80 for some of these rounds.
I haven't heard that before.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think the credit's got to go to West Garfield Park because they came up with a very good couple of problems in a few nice mini games there to solve. It's not always easy to choose who you get on the spawn peak or the early engagement, and you know that they were going to get the ace, but it just so happened that they did, and that was really the undoing of the round. They've had a little bit of a switch up here. Kino going to be rocking that Soul Hard Breacher this time, and We had Namaru teased for a time, but he's Iconic going to settle on the Ying. Again, it comes down to this roam game. I think that, you know, M80 have been a little bit hit or miss on it so far. And credit to them in the first round. They've done a fantastic job of singling out the player in library. And then since then, it's been sloppy, but it's just not been there exactly the same. There's so many options for kills outside to in on this map as an attacker. They showed us that in the first round by barely getting into the building.
Yeah.
We need to see a bit more of that.
And I think, you know, the last time that M80 attacked this, they did a really good job in terms of breaching the library and then just breaching the dining and containing the roamers from West Garfield Park. I nearly said TSM there because Snakes.TSM does get taken down by Kino. And again, it's really good. One thing for West Garfield Park I want to see them do on this top floor is fight for the office a little bit more. Keep the pressure high on M80 so that they don't feel safe enough to just waltz in a plant like they. You can see the walls getting opened already. Now, if Gomez can just control office, then West Garfield Park are really going to have some difficulties in terms of stopping the same thing that happened in the last time. They're going to have difficulty stopping Kino just dropping down to lobby, breaching the wall and just walking into dining. So it looks like it's exactly the same strategy, but where's their adaptation now?
Castle barricades getting removed now as well, as each layer is peeled back of this top floor defense and giving a few more options here to the players on M80 and what they can try and do with it. There are still a couple of lurkers remaining upstairs. Still some bodies to be dealt with. M80 not looking directly to take a gunfight now, but still firmly in that information gathering stage. Good opportunity for the main stairs, for the main of the window there for a bit of a cross. And you can see the Ying Candela's coming now from Iconic. Great opportunity for a wallbang. Put some shots in, but it's not going to be enough. First blood goes on to Kino. He's going to fall there as the cross-mat is taken down. Iconic's going to pick himself up a couple as he storms his way on through. M80 takes the time to settle fresh, but when they've decided that they are going to go, boy, do they go.
Yeah, I think they had a good read on it, and I was getting ready to say mid-round. I'm not sure if they need to clear the top floor, but it looked like WGP were going to play more to retake that top floor together, and I think they realised that and just made a commitment in the IGL and in the calling in that round. Let's take top floor, let's do it together, let's use the Ying. And you've got to say for what it's worth, it was a great execute onto that top floor that set them up into that 4v1, and then boom, you go from there. Yeah, really good. I think West Garfield Park, you know, maybe need to think about how they can play a little bit more frontline up, you know, especially around the master side, and get in the faces of M80 a little bit earlier. Fortunately, this is potentially their last defense unless we hit overtime. So they're going to go back to barring games. And if you remember last time that this was played, it's been played twice already, but the second time it was played, M80 were really slow, especially with clearing that top floor, clearing that library side, and it came down, you know, there was a big flank that came out of Eddie. He's back on the Legion again, back in that same type of place. So it looks like very limited adaptation, but for West Garfield Park, they weren't the ones that needed to adapt because they got the round last time.
Objective is
they can play very similarly to what they did last time. We're actually going to see Snake on the Solace this time, so even more potential for that flank. Himself right into the corner of Garage there. There's endless potential for this play here for Solace on the impact. He's going to get a bit of info here. Knows that there's at least one out there on the camera. Starting to think about it. He's going to go for it fresh. Picks up one, grabs the second. What a big play there from Snake. Gomez, you can pre-fire through the wall all you like. You're only giving away your own position at this point because Snake's going to get away scot-free. Say again, Diaz. He manages to salvage, but look at what's been lost.
Yeah. He's taken away the Ayana, he's taken away the nades, he's taken away Spoit, he's taken away the Ying of Kino. That is an excellent trade, and Snake will take that all day long. You just want to, you know, even worst case scenario, a 1-for-1 there was excellent. He's got a 1-for-2, and I think that's great. It means Eddie can now just back off from this engagement. He's heard a Guman go out, and he's thought, no, I don't need to back. I can just let M80 carry on droning the map, carry on taking the ground, and we can save this fight for another day. Really smart, really good play, really intuitive play by Snake though.
Just goes to show the confidence that's on this WGP side is, you know, they're not afraid to go for these runouts and to go for these flashy plays, and it definitely caught M80 off guard a little bit there. Still a little bit of work yet to do, but what a swing, Fresh!
Yeah.
What are we witnessing here? Iconic's been absolutely binned there on the
Attackers
angle.
bomb diffuser
Gomez,
has been
again,
dropped.
coming in with a trade, but it's immediately refragged. And that's just going to continue to happen. WGP, they have the numbers for this. And now they've got the last piece of info. They know that Diaz is at this main door. And they're not going to let him in easily.
Default comes up. It's definitely seen him work his way into lobby. Does manage to take that one out. Don't know if he knows that there's a player bottom blue. Seems to be aware of the fact that the presence could be there. Goomine surely will start the swing. You know he's going to play restrained. DS finds one onto the bar. Sees the bullet tracers. Knows that there's definitely one bottom blue now. Does take that chip damage. Has to pull the Goomine out. And now he's got to isolate these gunfights. The bottom blue player is rotated into bar. And there is a player top blue. That's great movement from the side of Eddie. He is sat on the diffuser. He will find the final kill. And West Garfield Park, they will find another round.
Great first phase there from West Garfield Park. I think they've done a fantastic job to claw back a couple of those rounds.
Yeah.
Certainly after the way the first two went, there was no way I was sat here expecting a 3-3 split. And it's all off the back of some really good opportunistic aggression. It's not something that they've been trying a lot. You know, we've not seen them really run out. We've barely seen them play the Solace in that sort of a fashion. But that's exactly what Solace is for.
Attackers need to locate and
And I
defuse
think
as
that's
many
what
bombs
West
as they
Garfield Park
can.
need. Really. I think realistically, when you're going up against a team, or any tier 1 team, as let's call them a tier 2 team, right? If you're a tier 2 team and you're going up against a tier 1 team, you need something that little bit extra in terms of that's going to win you the round. Because if you sit there and let them get set up, if you sit there and play them a strategic game, there's a very high likelihood that you will lose 99 times out of 100. But if you've got that little bit extra, like Snake just making a big play to get a big multi-kill and being disruptive as hell to them, that's where you can grab something back. And I think that's where Snake's experience particularly came from. And he made that play, and he won them. He didn't win them the round, but he set them up in like a great stead to win the round.
Yeah. He gave them a very difficult position to lose.
Yeah.
You know, the initial kills are fantastic. If the rest of his team just blindly ran at every gunfight that they saw, then yeah, they probably would have lost the round. But it allows them to just play off the back of those numbers, which is something that we always come back to here in Siege, is that it is a numbers game. 5v5, you get an opening pick and you're not refragged. If you get 2 and you are, you leave your team in an advantage, and that's often the most important point. There is no advantage at the side switch. We're an equal 3-3 here. So M80, they are being pushed. They've moved on to the defense now, and they too are going to start things off down in the bar. Now, this is where I'm expecting West Garfield Park to maybe struggle a little bit more fresh on the attack, especially with some of the options that are available here to M80, and some of the little mini games that they are going to be able to set up. Diaz, fly so far. Valor, what are you doing inside of the site? Diaz says, thank you very much. I'll pick myself up a second. Kino, he's been downed as he drops out through the hatch. Diaz, maybe thinking about using that information that Kino's given him. He's just ready to react here as Kino crawls himself to a little pocket of safety. But there will be a player just low on blue stairs.
Yeah, Snake's going to walk up. He's going to find the kill. And I'm liking this pace for West Garfield Park so far. Like I said, you've got to do a little bit extra, and you've got to have the guts to make those plays. I think Diaz, he is one of the most underrated players in the world, in my opinion. He just held down that site like a fortress there. Gets a kill on the game's window. Gets a kill on the lobby side for the player walking in onto bar. And realistically, as long as they keep hold of these power positions for M80, they should win the round. But they can't play inside the stock. And Snake might be able to get...
Oh, no.
I was about to say, he might be able to get a little bit slippy. He slipped his way into a frost mat. This round's pretty much over. Just Eddie outside on the sledge.
Well, Diaz has picked himself 3 so far. Eddie, what can you show us here? Puts a good bit of damage in onto the Spoy. He's just got so many angles to check. 45 seconds left on the clock, and M80, they're starting to circle like sharks. It could be a bit too soon, though. Spoy finishes the deal. Little swing with the super shorty. It's something we see every day, but if you believe in it, it will give you the kill. M80 breathe a sigh of relief. The last couple of rounds really not going their way, but they do manage to grab one back.
Yeah, I think it was... you know, it was definitely worth it for West Garfield Park. I think you've got to try and change the pace. You've got to try and be variable. As I say, if you just go toe-to-two on just defaults, you're probably going to lose. So trying to find an opportunity, find a play. Bearing in mind that, you know, the ace got deep into the bar there. If he gets that kill on DS, that round is potentially very different. So kudos to them for trying it, but also kudos to DS for just shutting that the hell down. We're going to see M80 move all the way over to bar. We're going to see a very similar lineup coming out from M80 to how West Garfield Park ran it. With the castle, with the Jaeger, presumably to go upstairs and protect the double window, and then the window into the piano hallway as well. I wouldn't be surprised to see if that's where DS ends up. Obviously, Spike's on the frost. It's going to be a complete top four hold, and I guess my curiosity is whether M80 play this a lot more aggressively than West Garfield Park did.
10 seconds to go.
Yeah, West Garfield Park were very passive in that top floor hold. They had the to sell there, they had the rotations, the reinforcements, the passive barricades. He had a bit of stuff knocking around to do ADS and stuff. There wasn't that much presence. There was nobody playing, for example, inside of office. So I imagine that M80 are going to try and vie for that control a little bit more fiercely, and then have positions that they can then further drop back to a little bit as is required. In terms of the clear, WGP setting up here on the library side. Going in, they'll be able to look at the core library as clear, and then start to make their way through and look to maybe getting that office wall breach open.
The curious one for me here is Valor's on the Monty, and I'm wondering if they're just going to try a play just to walk him in somewhere. Because it's not normal that you see a Monty on this lineup, especially with such limited hard breach. If you look at the way that there's only Thermite on the side, especially if Iconic Impact tricks the Thermite off, they might have to do something that relies on something crazy with the Monty just walking in without a breach or something like that. So I'm keeping quite a keen eye on that, as well as this top floor fight, you know, as it goes on basically.
More willing to play inside of office, but as predicted, he's got positions to retreat back to.
Shieldception.
He's immediately taken care with, though, as the shield has been removed along with one of the ADSs. There's still an ADS on the other side. It's likely to catch for him if required, but he's got another shield to get himself dug back behind, but you just know that those ones are going to keep on coming, and you can't always be ready to get them, as you do need to be ready for the fight as well. Gomez maybe prepping himself for a little bit of a jump out there, a bathroom window. You do start to hear the breach getting opened. Valor on the Monty. He's going to start looking for maybe a little bit of ground here. This is where you've got to start to look toward the denial that we've got on the side of M80, and there's no C4s fresh. We've only got a couple of Toxic Babe canisters, so Valor, he's now going to make his way on in. He's going to start to try and get that plant down. Kino, he finds himself one, but he isn't really in the right place. The kill's going to start to keep flooding in now as Iconic. Great backstab from him. Picks one. Diffuser has been planted in the melee, but M80, they have that preferable position. You almost feel like they let the plant go down there a little bit fresh.
Yeah, and I feel like this is where, realistically, that when I said when you go toe-to-toe with M80 in terms of... oh dear, DS. Oh dear.
I think we can maybe give Diaz a pass for that one.
Yeah.
Look at him go. He's 8-3.
True.
Defenders have disabled the bomb.
He's having a bit of a blast at the moment.
Defenders win.
Oh, like I say, when you go toe-to-toe a little bit with M80, and they executed that same strategy that West Garfield Park tried perfectly against West Garfield Park, they're going to know also how to beat it. And I think the coordination of M80 in terms of the retake was just so much better. You know, you saw Kino open it up. You saw Iconic hit the flank at the same time as the top floor is getting retaken, at the same time as the guys in sight are retaking. And it was almost like a 3-2-1 on defense to just hit the collapse. And that's exactly what happened. You know, it's not often that you see a flawless retake, right? And that's pretty much what M80 got there. And I think that's the difference. And that's why potentially West Garfield Park should be trying something a little bit more funky, like we saw them in their first attack round.
Yeah, it isn't always... If it looks too good to be true, sometimes it's too good to be true. Most of the time, it is in fact too good to be true. So, being given that opportunity to get the plant down, you can just kind of wonder, well, there's still a lot of players alive. That means that they are somewhere else, likely ready to stab us in the back. Just a comment on what was going on in the old chat there as well. It was actually a
Attackers must locate and defuse the bomb.
Yeah.
WGP.
Allowed, aren't they?
These guys are going to get a bit of a shock when they, you know, if they play against some of the guys in Europe or APAC or There's been some very good skins getting thrown around there, Fresh. We've had a bit of Ember Rising been kicking around. I remember Shaiko was rocking some the other day on BDS.
Yeah, I don't know if there's been some kind of gentleman's agreement between all of the NA teams, and maybe that's why they're getting upset, but if they've definitely watched the Europeans, there's been Ember Rise and Wind Bastion and all sorts rocking around in terms of the Europe, and I think, you know, if they get to Gamers 8 and if skins are allowed there, then they're going to have another issue, so... But yeah,
you wait until we're on the desk and we're talking about skins and why Villa's constantly getting banned.
Oh dear, yeah.
About every skin blends in perfectly with Villa. Gomez. Oh my goodness, you get coming through. You were saying it was easy before Gomez. You're down behind the deployable shield, and another kill's going to come through. Spoit, he's been taken out there. 2 big entries here for WGP.
Yeah, and I think that's the numbers game. We're going to talk about it. It's all I ever seem to talk about at times. But now, M80, they've got to look for a kill back. It's probably got to be Iconic. He's got the information just based on his utility to know if he can find a flank, to know if he can find somebody on a drone and try and even this back up. A 3v4 isn't the worst to play on this master site because of how small it is and the fact that there's a Monty up, but something needs to happen fast because a 3v5 is definitely almost impossible to play. By the way, the Frostmat's not been just a shot. I was about to say I could see a world where the ace jumped in and hit the Frostmat.
Iconic needs to do what he does best from this position, and he's going to find one. Kino, he's picking up another, but the plant's going down. If they let this go down and there's a monster in play, it's going to be very difficult to retake. The defuse is successful. Iconic tries for an angle through the floor, and he eventually finds the down. Kino picks up another. It's all down to Snake now. He's a lion. He's got very little HP and almost zero utility to speak of. He knows that Iconic is upstairs, downstairs. He knows that he's going to be peeking in there on the laundry. And, well, we are going to see that final kill come through. The diffuser already well underway. Another instance of M80 letting that plant happen. I mean, they didn't have much to say about it there. Don't forget, they were in a 3 versus 5 there, Fresh.
Yeah. And for what Iconic, you know, can cost you when he's on ace and you need that hard bridge utility on the basement attack, he makes up for when he's on Solace and double impacts. He got a kill, or sorry, an injure onto the Monty he was planting through 2 floors there. He was
he impacted through from
the
basement,
garage,
then up again. Yeah.
And that type of play is just something that you cannot account for. He gets the flank, gets the down at the same time as the rest of M80 are retaking. Sure, genuinely, you know, not the best round in terms of M80 strategically set up, but again, their team play and coordination in committing and hitting that retake. Again, they was in a 3v5 post plant, and it was a 3v0 once they hit that retake. That's 2 out of 2 successful, but flawlessly successful in the post plant.
If you were a numbers man, and I know that you are, Fresh, you would say that you want to maybe not get the plant down because you've got 100% loss rate when that plant goes down.
I'm honestly surprised that one got retaken, even with Iconic.
Yeah, I mean, the fact that Iconic has been allowed to flank in almost an identical manner 2 rounds in a row is a big problem. That's something that needs to try and be addressed here by WGP, and they've maybe got to make a decision. Do they really focus on the potential of that flank and the damage that it could do late round? Because any sort of benefit that they're getting in the early round or the mid round with getting that plant down, it's almost like a fake benefit, right? It's not actually providing them anything at the end of it because they're still losing a round because of that flank. So definitely a bit of a decision to be made there. But for the meantime, M80, they sit on map points here. This is, of course, a best of 3, so there are at least 2 more, well, at least 1 more and potentially 2 more maps after this one. So far, things not looking good for WGP on the attacks.
No, and remember, this is their map pick. Even though M80 love this map, this is their map pick. This is the one that they are supposed to win. So there's a lot of pressure on this because going into Bank, that is another map where M80 are very comfortable. Obviously, last time they attacked this bar, they tried to do something a little bit faster and a little bit fruity. Doesn't look like they're going to do the same again. Looks like they're going to try and work methodically for library control, try and clear Gomez out of his position inside of the library box, and then maybe try and clear stock and play for a plant. Looks a lot more default from the side of West Garfield Park, with only Snake kind of lurking in on the backstab.
Yeah, much slower round from WGP. I think it's necessary here. Iconic going to get taken out first. Nice angle there being utilised through mud. Iconic going for something out of bathroom there. Maybe just getting a tad overzealous seen a bit of success in the previous couple of rounds. We're going to see a hop in here. If this plank goes down, it's almost going to be a nightmare to try and retake as M80. Another round and another plant here, but the cover is going to be there. Spoit finds himself one. Gomez, another. The kills continue to flood, but the diffuser has been confirmed. Upside down repel is going to be a horrible angle to try and challenge onto this. But look at the two remaining players for WPG. They're very split up here. We've got one basically on either side of the map. One on the main door. We've got one on the upside down repel. Kino and Spoit need to put up here and figure out a plan as to what they're going to do, because the clock is ticking on this diffuser. 17 seconds left to go, and Kino thinks, you know what, we've just got to try and stick this, but the upside down repel is too strong. Spoit, you might have found a triple, but the round is lost. You've no longer got enough time to disable that diffuser. You can get the kill or not. We are going to find that final kill for Spoit. Picks the quad, but not too much fresh.
Yeah, no, that ended up way too close, to be fair. I'm not sure exactly why M80 weren't playing somebody in that stock position, because he genuinely would have stopped that whole plant going down and made West Garfield Park, really try and work them out of that position. And I think very good from them to recognize that they had an opportunity to get the plant in and get it down. In the post plant again, I think it was, fairly poor, to be honest, in terms of the post plant and maintaining the people. But they did enough just about all the time. Fair play, it will force M80 to move on to that dining site again. But this was one where they got completely retaken in the 5v5. You can see that they're sticking the Monty again. It looks like the same plant initially coming out of West Garfield Park. But they just need to work out how they're going to hold this post-plant retake if they get to that point from M80.
I love that frost mat from Spoit.
Yeah.
If I played that frost mat, people would be asking me, am I okay? What am I doing? But because Spoit plays it, it's a good frost mat, right?
It's the Amaru.
It's for the Amaru.
Yeah.
It's in case there's an Amaru up through the hatch, you're immediately just going to get sent into that frost mat and you just don't have to worry about it. The Amaru isn't here. The frost mat will likely not provide anything. Having said that, it's likely going to win the round. Now that I have mentioned it, but we will see how it all plays out. Something I'm keeping a very keen eye on here, Fresh, is Iconic. It's been a big reason as to why M80 have had success here on the defense. We've seen a lot of plants go down from WGP, and Iconic has been there to at least save the day in two occasions. So we need to keep a bit of a close eye on him and how WGP decide to deal with him or not, because we've kind of been in two schools of thought with it. No, we're getting the plant down if you can't hold it. We have held it once now, though.
Yeah.
It's going to give them a bit of confidence.
And I think, realistically, this match and this map has seemed very similar to when M80 played this map at Copenhagen, where they looked okay on their attacks. They got a decent split on their attacks. And then their defenses, they were allowing plants for free so often. And I think it's the same here. We've seen, 3, 4 plants, however many it's been. And I think that's one thing that they will be looking to address on this map. Even though they like it, I think teams who play specifically 4 plants against them do have a lot of success. It looks like it's going to be a very similar attack coming out of West Garfield Park. They've opened up the library breach. They're just clearing out the south side of the map. They might not know about Iconic because he is in a very off position right now. He obviously did get the flank from down here last time. So they're making sure that they are going to be very thorough, but thorough enough to check. The rotate has been seen. I didn't see the rotate initially, but if the rotate has been seen, they will be absolutely aware that he is down here somewhere.
It almost feels a little bit half-hearted. We've got Snake on the line. Great operator to try and stop this flank from going down.
I think they just commit.
Valor can't commit too much to this because look at the time. There's a minute left on the clock here. He's needed elsewhere to start baiting out utility and start thinking about a plant going down. Gomez going to be the first one to fall here as Valor does start to get that plant down. The kills keep coming in here. This is looking fantastic for WGP. They've made some great adaptations and the plant gone down. Valor's kept himself alive despite the Toxic Babe canisters, and he can now just harass these defenders in sight. Does need to be cautious that he doesn't fall into that frost mat aforementioned at the start of the round.
Oh dear.
Kills. Kino, he's going to try and get him out, and he will do just exactly that. Spoit with the hot drop. He's not got too much info to work off, but it might not matter here. Kino, he can start thinking about getting on this counter defuse, provided that the cover is good, but the cover isn't quite there. Rice is going to find himself one. Kino still disabling that diffuser. Rice, you're going to have to shift your feet here and get yourself into position. Finds the gunfight with Diaz. M80 by the skin of their teeth. They get it done.
What a scrappy defensive half for M80, but they just about get it done. And you've got to say it, they were just so much better in the post plant. In terms of they got, what, 3 successful retakes? Nearly got 4 successful retakes on their defenses. But other than that, their weak link in terms of conceding those plants has definitely been shown on that map. But it's their opponent's map pick. They got the job done, and I'm sure they'll be happy that it's at least done, and they're getting to move on to their map pick now.
Absolutely. You almost get the feeling with M80 that that excitement that you get in the post plant and that feeling that you get when the clock's running down and it's running down quite quickly, that's almost where they come alive.
Yeah.
It feels as though that is go time for them. That is what gets them going, and that's what keeps them playing the game, because they are able to operate under that amount of pressure in such a fantastic way. And it was done in different ways this time. West Garfield Park, they tried their best to deal with Iconic down below, but again, it just came down to a timing thing, and it is something that we tend to see with teams that have a little bit less experience. The attacks are going to be where they suffer. But credit to West Garfield Park for getting the plan down so many times. We're going to hit a very short break, and then we'll be back with map number 2 in this series. Don't go anywhere.
Gamers, UNICEF and I need you by our side for a real-life mission. A mission to protect the rights of every child. After news cameras have left, UNICEF is here. Every day, everywhere, but particularly where it's needed most. Did you know that more than 170 million children need UNICEF's humanitarian aid this year? At Gamers Without Borders, many of you have already chosen UNICEF, and I thank you for that. Choosing UNICEF is the easiest and smartest decision you can make, because you're investing in a child, and investing in a child guarantees lifelong returns, not only for that child, but also for their community and for our world.
The divisions in the world are stark. Recent years have shown some of the largest natural disasters ever in history. And that really hits hardest the people who had the least to begin with. These people need help. It would be a real tragedy if all these advances in science and health and technology only benefit people in a position to pay for them. There should be no lesser standard if you happen to be poor. These problems can be overcome. Direct Relief is a humanitarian, nonprofit health organization. The focus has been on the least fortunate, most vulnerable people. On a good day, things are tough for a lot of people in this world and in this country. And what we can do is mobilize private resources for their benefit and make it available free of charge. We're the first nonprofit in the history of the United States to obtain accreditation just like a commercial distributor. And it's been expanded geographically to every country in the world and every state and territory of the United States. What's now Direct Relief officially was started in 1948 as a private effort of a war immigrant businessman named William Zimden. The basic guiding principles of a war immigrant businessman really influence what Direct Relief has done ever since. And they begin with just serving the people who need help. We have this great privilege of engaging with people who come in from very different backgrounds, but with the same purpose of trying to just do something good. It doesn't matter if you're typing or talking on the phone or working on the warehouse floor. They're all part of an effort that means something bigger, and that is the fuel that kind of keeps you going. It gives you some sense that there is a way to make meaningful progress, even for a little organization that started at a kitchen table, but that's what provides motivation in life. The notion that many people, just by virtue of where they're born, the color of their skin, the country they live in, they're going to get sicker, they're going to stay sicker longer, and they're going to die sooner. That's pretty good motivation. These issues are too big for any one organization to address. We really work hard to honor these guiding principles, invite people to participate, and we are sure thankful for the thousands of people across the country and world who have become part of Direct Relief by virtue of their participation.
Progress is a race that has no end. After every finish line, another challenge awaits. How can we continue to push innovation in a sport at the forefront of technology? This is how. Discover how Aramco and the Aston Martin Formula One team aim to meet Formula One's sustainable fuel targets. Aramco, powered by How.
Hello everybody and welcome back here to Gamers Without Borders. We are currently in our NA portion of the show and we've just watched we've watched M80, beating out West Garfield Park over on Chalet. And now we move on to map number 2 fresh, which is Bank.
Yeah, and it's a big map for M80. Obviously, it's their map pick. They love the map. Didn't get to play it out at all during the Copenhagen Major. Permanently banned against them. They did play it a couple of times inside of NAL. And for West Garfield Park, we've seen them play it once. But that was all the way back at Copenhagen Major qualifiers. They played it against GGG. So another kind of pickup stack. They did manage to win it, but that's the only time we've ever seen them play it that there's footage on at least.
Yeah, it's always difficult when you're dealing with, you know, sort of open qualifier teams that can just sort of come out of nowhere, as it were, as it can be very difficult to know just exactly what to expect. I guess we know what to expect from M80, and that is some good siege, and so far we've seen some pretty good siege from them, so hopefully that will continue here throughout Bank. It is a map that they are, as you say, Fresh, very well known for being good at. I think it's a map that fits the playstyle and some of the players in particularly very well indeed. I mean, even you can just think about what we've seen in the previous map. You don't even have to cast your mind back that far. How effective is Iconic on those flanks? How difficult can M80 be to deal with when they've got that brilliant mixture of frontline, backline?
Yeah, absolutely. And obviously something that I'm looking out for when M80, they are going to be starting on the attack, which is a curious one. Because a lot of people would consider Bank quite quite attacker-sided, and therefore West Garfield Park, they had the option, do they start attack or defense? They've chosen defense, but when M80 get onto the defense, one thing I'm looking for is, you know, we saw a lot of retakes on Chalet. The locker site is very hard to retake. Open area, if the plant goes down there, almost impossible to retake. And CEO, especially if the plant goes down on the windows, almost impossible to retake. So I'm looking, especially for the second half of this game, as to how M80 have a plan to deal with that. Obviously, we've seen them you know, get rid of the Nook. They've got rid of the Kaid. They've left the Azami open, which is something they banned in the previous map of Chalet. And West Garfield Park, they've banned the Monty themselves, even though they did have a decent amount of success on it in terms of one of those sites on Chalet. And they've banned away the Valkyrie, which is what they did on the previous map as well.
Going to be headed down to lockers straight away. As you mentioned, some of the retakes on this side
Attackers
do
need to
require
locate and defuse as
a
many
little bit
bombs
more
as
of
they
a
can.
Hollywood-style film budget to pull off.
Yeah.
For the first 6 rounds, at least, we're going to get to see what M80 have got to show us on their attacks, which, for the most part, on Chalet were fairly good. It was a 3-3 attacking split for them, so it was by no means a stomp that I think some people would have expected it to be. There was a very mixed result in terms of dealing with the roam game, and we all know how good Bank can be for roamers. We're not getting the castle brought here, so I'm expecting a little bit of a soft hold
10
upstairs
seconds
in
left
open
before
area.
insertion.
Yeah, I'm curious that they've not brought this army as well, because especially if you're going to do this roam,
seconds to
there's a
insertion.
keeper barrier that you can place on the beepers towards that main door there, where you can actually,
locate and
basically,
defuse the
if you're
bomb.
going to roam and try and hold on to open area specifically, you can then block any attackers that come from the main stairs down. They have to punch and get rid of the keeper before they can actually get into open area. So, as army is available, and that's one thing that I would have liked to see. But I'm not exactly sure which operator for, because I think they're all very good in this lineup. I think the fact as army and Solace are both open probably speaks to that.
Yeah, he's got a lot of choice here on the defense. Sure, Valkyrie's been removed. Bang, let's be honest, there's so many options for Valkyrie cameras here. You've got to bring the Goyo, you've got to have that last second denial in the Goyo and the smoke. A C4's always handy to have, and a mute does a great job at debilitating that ability to clear out the roam game, which we know that M80 do have a very good ability to do. Opening pick, now he's going to go on to Kino. Oh, sorry, goes on to Iconic, as Rice is going to be the first player to fall. The big problem I think you've got with playing this extended roam against a team like M80 is that if you're going to be leaving players out there to fight on their own, you've got to understand what they're going to be able to achieve. I don't think that Rice is necessarily set up in a fantastic position, and Snake's going to find himself downed as well as he transitions through the rotate. Finished off there by Spoit.
This is kind of the problem with the roam, is that you're not necessarily, especially on this site, you're not looking for gunfights. You're not looking to end up in a 5v whatever, because there's so many ways into this site. There's 4 hatches, plus the server walk-in, plus the main stairs, plus the garage. There's so many ways into this site that you want to be in a 5v5 ideally. You don't want to find the fights as a defender. So the fact that they lost 2 lives, I know they've just pulled 1 back there on the side of Valor, but if you're in a disadvantage, it's hard. This site is so hard to hold on to, and they've only got very limited denial now. 3 smokes on 1 C4.
Still a C4 in the hands of Eddie, so there is something at least to work with. But just through sheer powers of deduction, you can look at the numbers here and start to think, well, M80, they can cover a lot of those bases, they can cover a lot of those options that are going to be used as entryways into the site. We're going to see a drop now into the server as the Toxic Babe gas dissipates slightly. Drone moving ahead from Iconic just to gather a lay of the land. Player that you really want to be concerned with here is going to be the castle just on the premises there of Garage. Hasn't necessarily got the best weapon to be dealing with this fight at long range. Got the UMP, has got the long barrel on. The Toxic Babe gas there is going to do a lot to try and burn the remaining 20 seconds here in this round, which is C4 sent out. The Garage has been dealt with, and the Cadella's can now start hitting through. The plant is going to be going down, and look at the cover that M80 have got to play with here. Iconic full white flank from his own team, that isn't going to matter. Plant goes down regardless, and he's just looking for kills here. Diaz finds one, draws for the pistol on the last. M80. Nice execute there.
Yeah, and that's exactly where having 2 players down the roam really comes to cost you when you're West Garfield Park, because basically you've got to worry about everything. You can't worry about the plant going down, the site hatch, the hallway hatch, the possibility of main stairs, absolutely everything else. You've got to just pick a lane and kind of just hit it and hope that it's the right one there, and you leave it down to uncertainty. And I think M80 played that perfectly well in terms of the time that they took to establish 2 players into server, to bait out the utility, and then more importantly, the drop went off at the same time as the Candela's going out and the cover from the hatch. Those 3 things happened simultaneously, and that's how well M80 just shut down. Because once all the utilities out on that side, you've got to play and push through to try and get the planter, otherwise you're going to lose the round. And I think M80 understood that, recognised that, and punished that. And that was a really good round from them.
It was that good fresh that WGP, they don't want to go back there.
No.
They're going to go to open area instead, recognising there that they just need a couple of rounds to ponder how they're going to approach that basement, as the Roman did not work out for them at all. And instead they're going to opt for a little bit of something different. Slightly changed lineup as well to account for things. We are going to be doing more about it. It's the first time we're going to see an Echo this evening in this North American matchup. A lot of plants have gone down so far, but look at Spoit go, picks up an entry there. Oh, you don't want to lose any of those ops early, but to lose the Azami, you've maybe got, what, one Kiba barrier out there?
Yeah, that's a big issue. I wonder if that was just a warband through the window. It looks like it might have been. And I think that's a lot of utility lost early on. It's warband. Yeah, that's really unfortunate, but also you've got to question why the Azami's there and just putting her face in that wall necessarily. And that's a lot of utility lost, because it makes that kitchen area, as you can see the drone coming through from Kino, it makes it so unsafe because Azami is used to close off so many key angles from the E-box door, from the printer window. Now that Azami's dead, you can see M80, they might well focus on this kitchen a lot earlier than they otherwise would have and start putting quite early pressure onto it.
You really get the feeling that they're designing up something, they're waiting for a trigger, they're waiting to see that little glimmer of opportunity. There's only Valor in on the site. Obviously, vertical is something to contend with, and we do get a drop now in from the smoke, but Eddie's going to be the next player to fall. Again, two openers going unresponded to in the opening half of the round. Kino, he's going to make his way in, picks himself one, gets a bit of damage, and down onto the second. Snake, you got a long way to go here, my friend. The Capcans are only going to do so much to make this easy for you. You are in a 1 versus 5, and you are getting cut down as well. A flawless round here as Kino is going to pick up that final kill as well. Another disgusting angle coming out from M80. It really all snowballed off that first opening pick from Spoit, and you know, you call it luck, but you've got to shoot your shot to get lucky.
Yeah, I don't know if I want to call it unlucky or not, because you kind of know that players will just pre-fire certain angles just as they're running out of spawn. Spoit in particular does that. It's like, you know, he's just got to pre-fire certain angles where people can be. Now, when you're so vital to that defense is so good and it's set up for the Azami, and there's two key angles that Azami shuts off. The printer window all the way through to what's called the Kansan rotate inside of Europe, which is that rotate between kitchen and open area, and then the angle that we saw Kino actually get double from, which is the electric box that was hard breached. You can put a keeper barrier on the table that covers off basically all lines of sight. If the Azami stays alive, those lines of sight are covered. M80 attack that completely differently. So we'll call it unlucky, but M80, once they got that lucky first kill, were absolutely ruthless.
You really have to make your own look, and of course act off the back of it. It would have been very easy to get that opening kill and then just go with whatever the plan was inside of the prep phase. But it's about spotting that opportunity and seeing, hang on guys, this might be on it. We might just be able to, you know, pinch a little bit harder and get a bit more control inside of sight, especially when you see things like Echo being brought. You're thinking, these guys are thinking we're playing for a plant here, and we're not going to play into that. We're going to make this happen a lot quicker. Back down to the basement we go for round number 3. I'm surprised to see this roam still being attempted here. WGP, they were not successful. They haven't suffered entry deaths fresh. They've suffered dual entry deaths every single round, and this is going to be different. Iconic, he's got himself straight in, hop down the hatch and into server. He's going to dip himself back out again. You should be running the other way, my friend. This is like the rounds being played in reverse at the moment, but clearly finding a little bit of safe passage to jump on the drone and do what he needs to do.
And I was just about to say, as long as, and I'm surprised Spoit's not got on this angle earlier, he would have caught the rotate back down. Still manages to see the player, but doesn't actually get the kill. I was going to say, the key win condition for this roam is staying alive and being in a, you know, a relatively even man count. And I was so surprised to see Snake once again dying. He's on the Solace. He's got a lot of utility and needs to stay alive. For what it's worth, the rest of the team, they're now doing a good job at maintaining that open area control. And inevitably, they should drop off at some point. But if they lose another life, and they just did, it's a big problem. Because we're back in the same scenario where M80, they're going to be able to execute in a 5v3 and abuse all of those different avenues of attack.
and you've still not burnt enough time. The whole reason you do the roll is because you bring things to burn time in on the site. You've got the canisters for Vulcan, the Vulcan canisters. You've got the smoke canisters. You have that ability to burn that time, but you need the guns in position as well. Still 2 C4s and 3 Toxic Babe canisters, so all is not lost. This is still winnable here from WGP. They've just got to play it well. M80 now going to start setting themselves up. They can cover all necessary angles here into the side. Eddie just going to try his luck maybe on this elevator's drop. He does need to be careful here. You can't afford to give another life away, even if it's a 1-for-1 trade. Kino is going to prep the flash before he drops himself down. Potential here for the kill to be found. No way, Kino! How does he suffer to that? That's diffuser cold as well at the 30-second mark. That is not ideal. I don't know if Eddie knows he's actually got him down, but it's not even going to matter. The collapse comes in from M80, and it's all down to Rice. Wow. He too will fall. Kino, you might have got down, but it's still a flawless round here for M80. They are looking so good here on Bang.
Yeah, I don't know if they've got a coach, but they need to have a timeout right now just to have a speak about what's going wrong. Doesn't look like they're going to be fair to them. And I think, yeah, once again, you see them not understanding that key win condition about the roam, about wasting time, about not taking the gunfights and getting yourself back to site. That's the win condition. Because even if you then commit the players that are useless in the utility game in the post for the plant back up to retake, you cause M80 problems. M80 had no problems in that round. And it's 3-0. It's been absolutely clinical to the point that it's basically, apart from Fowler picking up 1 pick, it's been 3 flawless. It's not been 3 flawless rounds, you know what I mean? But like, it's been as close to 3 flawless rounds as we possibly could get. Strategically, M80 have been excellent, and West Garfield Park haven't had any answers or any solutions to it whatsoever.
10 seconds
Spoit's the only person that's died.
Yeah. Terrible.
Spoit's died
Kick him.
once.
No, I'm joking. Actually, no, we want him back. Yeah.
We want him back. We'll have him, actually, we'll have him back.
Yeah, we'll have him back.
We'll have him back. Come back.
Thank us later, Cody.
We need to replace him with another player that wouldn't have died in this side of
That's
M80.
honestly true. Prano wouldn't have
I mean,
died.
that just
Take him.
take Prano. That would have. I mean, that just paints the whole picture, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Val, the only player with a kill.
At least
We haven't a down on Kino. Kino's been down. Kino's got a 0.5. You know, we maybe got to knock off half a point for Kino.
Oh, really? Okay. At least Rice has stayed alive, right? So at least this round is going to play out differently. It's going to force M80 to more or less do a full clear and exhibit their actual attack. They're not just going to get free site presence and free site control because they get that wall bang onto Rice. So far, the first minute of this round has gone better for West Garfield Park.
Oh, West Garfield Park are on the up and up. It's confirmed. They've given us a full rotation, and now they're just gonna really dial in now to this next point in the plan. See the Ace start to enter here in, and kills again. Gonna start to come in. It never comes in 1s or 2s. It is always multiples.
Wow.
Iconic. He's been downed as well, but it looks like it's not even matter. Diaz, he picks himself one up. M80, they've just got so many ideas here of how they want to push this. Rice, likely going to find a kill over onto Iconic. Maybe we'll take him back to Europe as well. Picks himself up a second. Hang on a minute. Rice has a bit of fight left in him here. If Snake can come in and try and assist. Spoit tanks a Capcan on the way into Archives here. Looks as though he knows somebody's going to be hiding out inside of Tellers. Snake not being given much of a reason to move and holding important cross at the moment. But the vertical is going to start to come in, and that's going to put pressure on Rice in the site. Spoit. This player is going to still be hanging out inside of Tellers, just waiting for the vertical to shift Nade into a position where he can catch. But it looks as though Snake will get away for the time being and at least be allowed to reposition. There's still a good amount of time here left for M80 to work with.
Yeah, Rice has managed to find one. Spoit finds one straight away back. Spoit finds 2. That's the round done and dusted. And just when you thought West Garfield Park were going to bring it back up, Spoit appears and says, hey, you was talking about dropping me? Well, I'm going to show you otherwise.
Oh, it's a shame. It seems like he wants to stay.
Yeah.
Maybe we have to let him stay fresh.
Maybe.
Maybe we'll take Iconic instead, eh?
Yeah.
That seems like a fair
yeah,
trade.
absolutely. Oh, God, imagine Iconic in Europe.
Which team would we slot him into?
Oh, it would have to be Koi.
You reckon?
No, it would have to be because Koi are like, if you think about who's the biggest like balls to the wall team in Europe, You could argue wild, but that's more like funky strats to try and get plants and exotic plays with hungers, right? But then if you take actual balls to the wall, we're just going to do some, like, we're just going to hit the site and be aggressive, and everyone's going for this. I want to see Iconic paired up with Leon Gids. Like, do you know what I mean? I think it would be incredible.
Good little duo, that.
Yeah.
4-0 so far for M80. They're not showing any signs of slowing down at all here. We commented at the start of the last round on the kills. Rice has picked himself up a couple, but they're largely impactless, especially seeing as the rounds keep going to M80. You can get 3 kills in the round, and collateral damage at that point for M80 and picking up yet another. They're shaping up for a flawless attacking streak here. It again draws into question. It's the right decision from WGP to start off on the defense. I'll be honest, I don't think that that's going to be a big deciding factor here either way, but it just isn't nice coming out of a game where you're previously getting, you know, torn around the place on Chalet to now just getting thrown about like a ragdoll here on Bank.
Yeah, and I think M80, you know, they're obviously attacking up onto the top floor as well, and it's looking like it's going to be not a quick play, but it looks like it's going to be a play straight into CO from Spoit by utilising Ying if he can. Canto wall has been breached. That's by where the castle is. There'll be a cat and mouse game between the castle, the Izami and the Habana, with constantly breaching and keeping that wall open. The reason that you do that is then to hold that very long line of sight, because when everything hits the fan and the Yin Candelas and the swinging's going to come to try and get the plant down, obviously the defenders will react, and the Habana's there to cut down that big long line of sight all the way down the hallway just past sight. So that's step 1 achieved for the attack. Now it's about the Candelas and causing the confusion. At the same time, you'd expect Iconic to drop down the skylight into sight as well.
M80 are very meticulous in the setup, and a lot of it is all being called by Iconic. It does look like they, you know, really spend their time setting up, but it's a blink and you miss it, execute 9 times out of 10.
Yep.
See Gomez, he's got himself in below, does have a couple of nades to work with. Kino going to open the account, kick off for the kill onto Valor. It's a fantastic first pick onto the ward, and it increases the value tenfold onto those Yin Candelas. They're going to start coming through now as well. Snakey's on the flank, but Iconic's on a triple. He's got a lot of work to do here if he can hope to try and salvage anything here. Gets himself into a bit of a scrappy engagement. Picks 1 and a second. The diffuser still in the hands of Kino. Eddie and Snake, we've still got a long way to go inside of this one. A whole minute to try and hold on to. Kino can start getting that plant down at a moment's notice. Eddie now lit as well, as he too will eventually fall. And Snake, well, he's one shot to any gun, but he's found himself 3. Looking to see if he's being caught out here on the flank, but the plant will be successful. Still, a fair old way to go here. Diaz just going to think about a bit of a reposition. He's going to creep around there outside of stock. He had good information as to where Snake was. He might have been on the Solace, he might have shot the flank drone, but he didn't move afterwards.
Yeah, absolutely. He just kind of waited for his death there. And I think, you know, if you watch some, you know, if you watch Rainbow Six broadcasts, especially for me, you'll hear me talk about split theory a lot. And that round was like a perfect example of split theory, which is where you've got one player controlling one place. You've got then 2 players causing a ruckus over by the rappel. So that was Spoit and whoever was with him. I think it was Kino on the windows. There was a player on the lobby rappel. And then Iconic was able to find a gap because there was so much ruckus going on elsewhere. In another part of the map on his own, Iconic was just able to slip in, get himself inside and get a free game. And that's what split theory is all about. And that's the way a lot of teams are playing is you get 2 people in one place, 2 people in another, and one player that kind of just, they get called a lurker or a backstabber a lot. But whoever finds the gap is the one that hits the gap. In that round, it was Iconic. In other rounds, we've seen people rappel in from the windows, find the gap there. And in other rounds, we've seen people, you know, that are holding the long angle on the canto wall, find the gap there. But that was a perfect example of a split theory round from M80, where realistically, West Garfield Park couldn't do anything. And Snake found, what, 3 exit frags there on the flank that was probably way too late.
And it's still exciting stuff seeing Snake pick up 3 on the flank, because there is that world where he ends up getting the ace clutch. Yeah. But it's such a long shot, and it very, very rarely happens. And at this point in the round, and even in the game, if it had gone 4-1, you'd still be sat here thinking, you know, M80 are firmly in the driver's seat of this series. Yeah. And it's just another little stumbling block that they're going to have to come up against. They're going to have to play play another round of Siege, because there's nothing that WGP have shown us up until this point that tells me that they're going to be able to swing it significantly. There's only 1 round left on the defense anyway. And then we move on to the attacks, and we kind of saw how their attacks went on Chalet, and it can play out very similarly here on Bank. There's a big presence at the moment inside of main lobby. We've got a couple of the players from M80 that are stacking up in there. Potential for a bit of a drop here, and that's exactly what we're going to see. Spoit and Gomez get themselves straight into Gold Vault. They're going to start finding engagements almost instantly. Diaz, what a great play from him. He's immediately able to stop the flank from coming down. Rice thinks, well, they've dropped. I'm going to go and use the hatch that they've just dropped through, but Diaz is there for the catch. Kino now looking to make his way in through, but he immediately gets taken out by Snake. So for all that the initial rush was semi-successful, it has just petered out ever so slightly. Diaz, though, he's going to back things up as well, level things out into the 3 versus 2 in favor of WGP, but the kills are going to keep on coming in. And all of a sudden, we've got Gomez on the Amaru stuck inside a gold. He's going to be getting pinched from both sides. He's allowed to break one down into a 1 versus 1. This could be devastating. Eventually shut down there by Eddie. Bit of a rush round there from M80. Feel as though they were just sort of trying something there fresh.
Yeah, I liked the idea again. It was kind of cause that ruckus by dropping the lobby hatch, and that's exactly what they did. They got everybody's attention, and I think the Habana got the kill onto the Legion, but then didn't hold the flank well enough. Maybe tried to push down the main stairs, got punished. The flank came in from Valor, and I think, you know, the Buck caught a very unlucky timing walking into server as well. There's another world where that actually goes really to plan, but West Garfield Park, unfortunately, you know, for M80, West Garfield Park were actually running the turtle version of that strategy. We'd seen them roam twice. The third time they did it, they turtled up, and they had so many more numbers in sight than they'd previously had. And I think, you know, M80 maybe didn't necessarily realize that. I think maybe they just, you know, didn't realize that and thought, hey, we can just rush, we can find a gap down lobby hatch. That maybe wasn't. But they're going to take a 5-1 half any day.
10 seconds remaining.
Absolutely, and it's a fun round to try, right? These players are, you know, for all that this is a serious game, they're feeling pretty comfortable at the moment, knowing that they've got a 4-round buffer, and they're happy to go for a little bit of fun and try and drop a hatch. It's almost a rite of passage that whenever you're playing banking, you've got a reasonable lead. One of the rounds that you attack down in the basement, you're going to probably try to just rush the back hatch and drop down into Gold Vault. So a nice attempt there from M80, but I don't think it's going to keep them up at night knowing how it went. Now this is exactly how you are meant to play this extension over into open area. We've got a castle barricade, we've got some reinforcements, the hatch open, ready to be dropped, and Spoit on the Azami keeping himself alive. A great option to force a very full map clear here, and then fall back onto your strong utility. C4, 3 Toxic Babes.
And if you compare and contrast, look at the positions. When West Garfield Park were defending this, there was players up on the top floor, players in tellers, players in archives, players in lobby, all kinds of places that they shouldn't be. Look at where M80 are. They're focused in and around open area. So they're going to allow West Garfield Park all of this top floor as control. They're going to allow them certain bits of the mid floor as control, but fight for what they think is relevant, but also fight for what gives them an option to fall back safely. Because the win condition, again, is getting back on site in a 5v5 and then potentially retaking with your castle, with your Azami, and with your Jaeger if you then need to retake up the top floor. Look at the time there, look at where we are in the round compared to when M80 attacks this, and it's completely different.
Oh, we're going to see a hot drop through the hatch here. Castle barricade is going to keep them safe for the time being, but a lot of guns are going to be pointed in the direction as soon as this happens. We are seeing players start to drop off through. Fresh, you've got your split theory. I like to call this the correct theory. It is like an onion. The layers are inevitable. M80 are one of the best to do it. They love playing off these little power positions, setting themselves up something to fall back to. And already they've burnt a couple of minutes inside of the round. And WGP, they're no further than they would have been anyway.
Exactly. And Spoit will take a fight with anybody, as will Kino, but he will get shut down. My point was, Spoit will take a fight with anybody, and he's still dropped down, right? So you can see that they clearly have a defined understanding of that win competition.
Losing Kino there was not ideal by any stretch. He's still out there on blue stairs, and it is going to force Iconic to just have to dip back a little bit. Lost the Toxic Babe canisters there. The position Kino was playing, he was expecting to spend them, but he would have wanted a little bit more utility exchange for his life. Gomez, he's going to trade back here. He actually goes for a full flank up the stairs. This could be devastating. He knows that there's a pressure inside of server. He knows that's a bit of a point of weakness at the moment. All he's got to do is bide his time. 20 seconds on the clock. Spoit picks himself up one. Nades start to come in now, but the kills continue to fly. Diaz, he's going to join the party as well. There's a few that hold on the ground. Kino might be the only casualty that M80 suffer here, and that will be so. Spoit, he picks up the final kill. How much of a difference it makes seeing your army alive for that final portion of the round, able to then deploy those Kiba barricades in the site. Doesn't matter if you've not got a ton of smokes, doesn't matter if you've not got a ton of toxic babes. You've done the work in the first part of the round. You've front-loaded the work.
That's exactly what they should do. And like I say, it's night and day difference. If you played the round that M80 had there on the defense and overlaid the West Garfield Park round, you'd see the key differences and see that M80 very clearly had an understanding of that win condition. They also had an understanding of, hey, Iconic didn't have a C4, we've lost our smoke. We might need to hit a retake. But they didn't wait when the plant was going down to do that. You saw Gomez get up and do it in the round. It might be DS, actually, I'm not sure which one went up and did it. But they hit a very early retake, got the flank off, got the kill. And it creates panic stations. It forces the attackers to then try and make a play or deal with the flank, again burning through time. So really good understanding of the win conditions there from M80 and very well executed in the end.
Match and series point now for M80 already on bank. We've only seen 7 rounds and we're getting stuck into the 8th now. It feels as though they've only just got going. I reckon these guys can play like this all night long fresh.
Looking forward to seeing them in the best of 5 if that was to occur tomorrow. But we've still got a round to play and I'm seeing a Lion, a Glass and a Sense. I'm wondering if something fast is going to occur out of the side of West Garfield Park here.
The attacker's bomb diffuser has
Maybe they
been
go for it.
dropped.
Maybe they just go for that fast play. I mean, the only fast play happening at the moment is going to be Kickstraw getting himself taken out downstairs. Spoit ready and waiting there on the Solace. Not even sure if the Solace was a defining factor in that or if it was just Spoit things. This could be another flawless here, Fresh. We've only seen 35 seconds and already 2 kills. Snakey's starting to take some damage as well. Rice, he's just going to solo walk into sight. He hasn't got his team around him. He's got no support here. They jump into the drone for the time being. A Claymore will find Iconic, so a little bit of aggression there being punished, and Rice will eventually be rewarded. Level things out 3 versus 3. The best that West Garfield Park could have hoped for here. They do still have the glass and they do still have a couple of smokes, so there are going to be options here. Snake potentially going to get himself on that upside down rappel as Rice is going to find himself a second, at least gets the down and the confirm. Just goes to show the power of that AK-12. Now West Garfield Park, for the first time in what seems like a long time, they have a man count advantage here, and they could actually try and work something around. Gomez is going to be given an opportunity onto Snake and looks to try and convert onto it. Just turn his attention for the time being, but Diaz again on the flank, Fresh.
Yeah, if they don't know about DS, this could be a massive flank because they're all in bottom square now. If DS catches a great timing here, it could be absolutely detrimental. He finds one, does he find another? The flank drone does get shot out as the execute's going in. He does find the second, and it's all up to Rice in the 1v2 to save his team in this Gamers Without Borders qualifiers, pushing deep in sight, goes through the rotate into open area, takes a look at the office. Does he know the players there? Doesn't seem to have an idea, although pop shots did come from there earlier in the round. Seems to think he's by the cans and rotate. Does catch a glimpse of him in the office. Now he's got to try and isolate that fight. Knows there's a breach to bottom square. Does he try and find kill onto the door? No, he's going to go in deep. Will he try and bait the plant? Bring the defenders to him. Does have diffuser in hand. He's really trying to work these angles. Has nearly walked himself all the way through site and back out. Choosing an unusual plant spot on the door. Diaz pushes through all the way through site into kitchen. Does see a glimpse, and this is awkward. Diaz will find one. Rice now in the 1v1. Will the player swing? Gomez has got a very aggressive position. Does need to play the time aspect of this here. Maybe play it a little bit more passively as Rice pushes back in. Will he now try and force the plant again? Bring the defender to him for a second time. Get off the plant. Isolate the 1v1. Will he stick it? About 1 second on the plant to remain. It's going to stick, so we are going to have a post plant. 45 seconds. There's a yellow ping that seems to come out, which means he has an idea of where this defender is, knows that he's moved, will peek out, will get the kill, and will keep his team in this game for now.
Rice has been desperate for a clutch all night. He's the guy that's been picking up 3Ks, 2Ks when it's not really mattered. They've been exit frags. Now, exit frags are great, but they don't mean anything. But what it does show you is it shows the player has that ability, and the fact that they play to the whistle. And there he's been in a live situation where it has mattered. The way that he navigated that, you've got to say that M80 dropped the ball. The fact that he was even allowed to get the plant down, the fact that he was able to break down a 1 versus 3 into 3 1 versus 1s is borderline unforgivable.
Yeah. M80 have been pretty good in terms of the discipline and the professionalism in this game. I think for the most part, apart from the 1 rush round and that 3v1, they've been absolutely excellent in controlling every round. But the fact that they were from a 5v3 there, then into a 3v1 and then lost it, they was in discipline on both sides basically, where they, you know, they let go of a couple of lives that they really didn't need to. They had to make a hero play to bring it back, and then they went and lost the 3v1. So, you know, for them, they probably strategically just about won that round as well. So, you know, you still expect them to win this game, but it's not the best sign when you've just lost the 3v1.
It's a bit frustrating, isn't it? It just looks a little bit sloppy on what has otherwise been an incredible performance here on Bank. But we don't remember the sloppy rounds, we remember the score lines, and there's still potential for this to be a 7-2. Although, I am sat here as the devil's advocate saying, I kind of like WGP to just immediately kick into gear now and to go through and rinse a few rounds and, you know, maybe put up a little bit more of a fight, because that's the first sign of fight that we've seen really so far from them on this Bank. And it does show that they do have it in them to scrap something together when the opportunity is presented to them. I'm expecting a little bit more additional siege here now from M80. Maybe just not throwing themselves at every gunfight they can find.
Yeah, you know, even in that last round, Iconic died to a Claymore, and I have absolutely no idea. He must have gone out of a window somewhere, CO or something like that, that he just didn't need to do. So I'd expect them to play it a little bit more reserved and, I would say, quote-unquote professional. We've got the Capital inside the lobby. Looks like he's going to use the bolt to force the player down the hatch in terms of DS. If the hatch isn't open, it's reinforced. Will the Capital fire reach him? No, it won't. Oh, that's so unlucky. Capital's shot both of those fires. So DS will remain and gives him some enchant to tell him that he's missed as well. Oh,
I mean, that's nice of Diaz to just explain that, hey, you know, you might want to go and work on your lineup a little bit because that's missed. Yeah, you need to place it a little bit differently. Kicksrow, he knows that he's got him locked in here, but Diaz is that kind of player that's happy for the fight. He's like, yeah, you got me locked in here, so what? I'm gonna go for this.
Hatch is
I'm happy
reinforced.
sitting here for a while. Hatch is reinforced. What's your next point of call going to be, Kicksrow? You've got to come up with a solution at some point. This is where you need your team to work around. You know you've got a player locked off. Do something to zone him out and single him off from the rest of the pack. Snake going to pick up a great kill onto Spoit. That's one of Diaz's lifelines really sort of taken out there because Spoit was in a position to do something about this.
Yeah, I'm not sure on the Twitch, Ash and Sophia, as they do, as I say that, as the Twitch fans kill. They didn't have a nade to clear out the elevator position, and it's forced them to completely change their attack. They were going from a lobby attack, they're now going to an open area attack, and they're going to have to force up square with very little time, even though they do have the man advantage.
Shots coming in now from the window as Kino's starting to feel the pressure. In normal circumstances, you would be expecting M80 to rinse themselves out of a window here, but they haven't really got the numbers for that. You know they're not going to get back inside. Instead, they're just going to get picked off from rappel. Diaz is going to find one, and really you would have thought he shouldn't be finding any inside of this round. But he's going to have to find them all if he wants to try and clutch this one out. Allows the player to cross through, and Snake's going to pick up the final kill. A much better round there from WPG.
Yeah, it was better. I think the realization that they were not going to move DS out of that position in the elevator was absolutely fine. Because as soon as they realized that, sure, you would have wanted to kill him, you would have wanted to move him, and that's exactly what they should have done. The Capital Bolt should have hit. As soon as they didn't, and DS let them know by typing in whole chat, they then rotated and just forced top square. And it was a bit of a put together round when you're just forcing it out of nowhere. And I think M80 were way too late to realise that the top square take was coming. Because we saw, you know, Kino sat on the breach of top square just with his back to it as people were walking up. And I think realistically, a well recovered round from WGP there.
Bomb located by attackers.
Again, another example that they've shown us of that ability to be able to clutch out the rounds.
Mm-hmm.
You do get the impression that we've seen a couple of throw away rounds from M80. I don't want to throw out the, you know, the old saving strat sort of line, but You do get the impression that they've been, again, as similar to the way that they were on Chalet, very relaxed until they get onto that more guaranteed defender bomb site. Of course, being the lockers, where we are going to see much more of a setup from. This is exactly the setup that we saw in the first round, or round number 7, should I say, the first round of M80 on the fence. But on the flip side to that, WG should know what's going into. It looks as though they're going to be ready for a heavy stack up here inside of open. Spoit already feeling this pressure. Now, if we recall, this was the round that we really credited M80 because they were able to hold for quite a long time up here. They didn't go looking for gunfights. They didn't go losing lives. Instead, they just burnt a lot of time.
And I think West Garfield Park have realised that M80 aren't playing top floor. So they can go a lot more laterally at them in terms of trying to put pressure on. And I think from a time management perspective, that's really good right now. If you look at them, they're already going to be droning out Kino at the top of the blue stairs. They already have opened up the printer window and opened up lines of sight there as well. So they're going to be putting the M80 players under so much more pressure than they did the previous time they attacked this. In theory, what that's going to give them is much more time to execute onto the site as long as they don't dawdle in this kind of middle minute of the round.
More time on the site is going to be required as well because we know how powerful those Toxic Babes and the C4 can be. Kino was taken out quite early on the stairs last round. He's going to be looking to try and play that for a little bit longer this time as we approach the halfway point. It's a nice clear from WGP. They've not had to go and do full clear from top down. They've just been very aggressive and very upfront about the clear of open area. It has allowed them a little bit more control a little bit quicker.
Yeah, they've just now got to deal with the layers in sight. Like you said, the Shrek approach, they've got to deal with Kino. Kino can waste so much more time. I know he died early last time. He died because he had a smoke canister in hand. This time he's pre-placed it at the top of the door. He's got a one-line magnet to protect him as well. You would expect at some point if he pops the smoke, and even if he does die, he's going to do significant damage to the side of Valor, who's stuck behind the shield. And Kino does manage to get to the bottom of the stairs. I believe Iconic is still helping him from the basement. Diaz is the one helping him from the basement. Finds the kill onto Rice, and Kino's causing them a big problem now for West Africa.
Great use of the Toxic Babe canisters, nicely phased out to try and deter this push from happening. And you can see that Valor's taking a huge chunk of damage, kills trading either way, and Kino still managed to find one onto kick throw as he drops. Valor, this is going to be your last chance here. You've got to try and make something happen, otherwise it is going to be curtains. Isn't going to be able to get past Kino here on the shield, jiggling left and right. That is going to be GG's. M80, they finally lock away Bank. All it took was to get them back down to the basement. They confirm that first place seed here inside of North America, and they will be going into our finals tomorrow.
Yeah, and I think ultimately, you know, the better team in terms of individual mechanics, in terms of team strategy and understanding the situations, there is certainly some things they're going to take away from that game. I think, hey, we could be so much better at. The post plants having to retake, they've got a little bit of a soft underbelly on their defenses. I want to see them get a little bit more active, particularly on their defenses. And, you know, they did throw 3v1. They did have to play the retakes. And I think that's something they'll go in and work on. But overall, a pretty good, thorough and professional performance from M80.
Yeah, there'll be a couple of rounds that they can go back and look at and say, you know, we'll play that one a little bit differently, or maybe some rounds that they can just sort of write off entirely and go, yeah, we know that we were just running around there. We were just sort of playing for our ones. But when they turn it on, they really do turn it on. Some of those attacks were clinical. The kills were coming in so thick and fast. And it's all about that setup with this team. They're a great team at the 3-2-1, and everything seems to revolve around that. We're going to have a quick look at the bracket now just to get everybody up to date and to see exactly where we are at here. Of course, as we were in our best of 3, the Latin America best of 3 on the A stream was concluding. NIP successful 2-1 victory over los+one, and we have got a classic tomorrow fresh. Liquid versus NIP. This is a war that has been waging for a very long time. Of course, it is an SI, a grand final rematch as well, as these two teams faced off against each other in 21. So a lot of, I'm looking forward to that, and I know a lot of people at home will be.
Yeah, I can't wait. I think Liquid looked ruthless today, and NIP had to get it done the hard way, but did have a very convincing map 3 going up against los+one. So I'm excited to see these two teams. It'll be the first time we've seen them in a best of 5 against each other since that SI final in 2021.
especially given that los+one had a new player added onto the roster at quite short notice.
Yeah.
Cameraman coming in, so obviously NIP coming up against a little bit of obstacle there. And of course, we have just seen M80 get the 2-0 victory over West Garfield Park. Theme Park and Chalet, sorry, Theme Park, that was the other game. Chalet and Bank both going M80's way. Not really coming up against much obstacle here tonight, Fresh. I think that the expected result for us here so far.
Yeah, I would say it was pretty much an expected result. Like I say, I think M80 probably were the better team with, the higher ceiling and the higher, individual skill, but also team and strategy and synergy. I think West Garfield Park did show some good stuff, but in the end, the favourite did come out on top.
Well, we are going to wait and see just who they are going to be facing, Beast Coast or Dark Zero, of course, because our LATAM game went on for a little bit longer and we hit all 3 maps and it was a little bit delayed. That game is going to still be in progress, so keep your eyes peeled and maybe jump over onto the A stream to see exactly what is going to be going on over there. But for us on the B stream, Fresh, I believe that is going to wrap us up. Thank you so much for stepping in. It has been a pleasure to cast with you and to get your insight over the course of both of these games. I hope you've had a good time.
I have indeed. Thank you very much for having me. And, obviously, hope Demo gets a little bit better. I know he had a short day on the A stream today, but it was a great privilege to cast, and I thoroughly enjoyed it.
Well, back to the desk with you tomorrow, but we will be back tomorrow for our grand finals for both the Latin America region and the North America region. So make sure you check the socials to see exactly when that will be. But for us here on the B stream, that's going to do it. We're going to wrap up. Thank you very much for watching, and we'll see you next time.